Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Devon and today I'm going to share with you my go-to recipe for fresh strawberry pie. When strawberries are in season, this is definitely the pie that I love making the most. I cannot wait to share my very simple and delicious recipe with you. I'm also going to share with you my pre-baked pie crust, how I do that, and the recipe for that. It comes out flaky and delicious. I'm also going to share with you the best homemade whipped cream from scratch. Real simple recipe. Are y'all ready? Let's get started. So first what we're going to do is I have my pot, and my pot is a high side pot. To my pot, I'm adding 1 cup of sugar, and that's regular granulated sugar. And to that, I'm going to add the small box of Strawberry Jell-O. And that's the small box of the Strawberry Jell-O, which is going to be the 3-ounce box of Strawberry Jell-O. You're going to add it directly to the pot. Now, my pot, I do not have my pot on yet. I have not turned on my pot, and that's important. You don't want to turn on your pot just yet. You want it to be cold as you're adding your ingredients. And then I'm going to add some cornstarch. And we're going to end up adding 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, just regular cornstarch, right to our pot, okay? And hey guys, if you are new here, welcome. And if you're a returner, welcome back. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go on and hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video and appreciate the content, show it some love and give it a thumbs up. Now, once I have my cornstarch in my pot, I'm going to take a fork and go all around the edges and the bottom. And what we're doing right now, what you want to do is your cornstarch is going to be kind of clumpy. It's going to be clumpy, and you want to break down as many of those clumps as possible before we add our next step, okay? And so I'm going through with the fork, and you see how I'm just like meshing and going around the sides. Now, you're still going to have some clumps in there, and I'm going to share with you the technique to get those out as your glaze is baking, as your glaze is cooking and boiling, because that's what we're doing. We're making a strawberry glaze for our pie, and this is going to be a really great strawberry glaze. Now, what I did was I added 1 cup of water, and that's all you need is that 1 cup of water to make this glaze. Now, I've turned my fire on. My fire is on a medium to high heat, okay? Like that medium to high heat. I'm going around the sides with my wooden spoon, and I like to use a wooden spoon because the wooden spoon, I'm going to see a little bit better with that consistency of our glaze that we're making when I use my wooden spoon. And so if you have a wooden spoon in your kitchen, that's what I would advise to use. And you see how as we're mixing it around, you see those little clumps of cornstarch, and then you see what I'm doing with the back of my spoon. You want to push those little clumps of cornstarch. You want to dissolve those, and that's important because that cornstarch is part of our thickening agent, and we want to make sure that all of our cornstarch is dissolved. You don't want to have white chunks of the cornstarch left as your glaze is starting to boil. So you want to go around the side and make sure that you are pushing and breaking down those pieces of the cornstarch, as well as when I'm going around the edge and the bottom, and I'm doing my figure 8s, and I'm going in the circle right in the middle of the pot. And then also you see how I'm going around the sides and the edge of the bottom of the pot. I'm making sure that I'm dissolving that granulated sugar. So the granulated sugar, and anytime you're doing the granulated sugar of equal parts sugar and equal parts water, that's a simple syrup. So anytime you need to make a simple syrup, it's equal parts sugar and water. Okay, so we did the equal parts of sugar and water, and the flavor was that strawberry Jell-O that we added. And the strawberry Jell-O is also going to be that other thickening agent that we have in there with that cornstarch. And go around, and you see, and it takes a little bit of a minute, but you know what, this pie is so good, it's worth it. And you just want to go around the sides, and I go back and forth. Now, our glaze is going to go in stages. Now, not everyone has a candy thermometer, and a candy thermometer would be best, but I know not everybody has a candy thermometer in their kitchen, so I'm going to show you and tell you what to look for when your glaze is ready. Now, as our glaze started to boil, this is the first boiling of our glaze. It's nice and foamy, and you see how it's still kind of thin. It's still pretty thin, but the bubbles are a small bubbles, okay? Eventually, it's going to reduce down, and we're going to have some bigger bubbles, and I'm going to show you the different stages and what to look for. And I just keep mixing it around. You're going to see a little bit of foam that's also formed in your pot. That's fine. And I'm just mixing this. I leave it for a moment. I come back and I mix some more, and you see how now you see the bubbles, how the bubbles went from small bubbles to bigger bubbles. That's what we're looking for, because that means that that syrup, that glaze that we're making is really starting to thicken. It's starting to cook and come together. And you see that nice big bubbles. It's starting to reduce down a little bit, and you see how our bubbles are nice and big now when before they were small. And also our glaze was really foamy on the top, how that foam has started to dissipate and everything starts to reduce. That's what you're looking for. Now the total cook time of this is going to be anywhere from 7 minutes to 10 minutes, okay? And so, but you want to watch it, because at this point it's going to go from perfect to a little bit too thick, and you don't want that. And you see how now how it's cooked down and it's coating the back of the spoon. You see how it's barely dripping and it's coating the back of the spoon? That's when you know that your strawberry glaze is ready, okay? And you see that? There we go. And it's a nice thick glaze. That's what we want, because as this cools, once we turn off our fire, and as this cools, it will continue to thicken up a little bit more, okay? And then when we put it into the refrigerator, when it's coated with our strawberries, it will thicken to the consistency that we are looking for. Now, what I do is I go in and I take it right off the stove and I put it in a nice big bowl, because this bowl later we're going to add our strawberries to. You do not want to add your strawberries to the hot glaze. You do not want to do that. The glaze needs to cool off a bit. You don't need to put it in the refrigerator. Just let it cool on your countertop for anywhere from about 5 to 8 minutes. Not too long, because you don't want it to start to set up. You still want it to have to be loose, so that way the strawberries can be able to be tossed around in it. Now my berries, when it comes to picking your berries, you want to have berries that are nice and firm. I always pick berries that are nice and firm and nice and fresh. You don't want any blemishes or soft spots on your berries, okay guys? Now you're going to have some big berries and some small berries, and what I like to do is actually, when it comes to the berries, is I like to end up getting two things of berries, and for this recipe you're actually going to need 3 pints total, which is 3 pints is basically roughly about 6 cups of berries. So I always end up getting a little extra pints, so that way I can really choose the best berries out of the bunch. And the bigger berries, the ones that are sized of about an egg, you want to cut those in half. The berries that are about the size of a quarter or a little bit bigger than a quarter, you want to leave those whole, okay? And I'm holding my berries, and holding the berries, and I'm using my paring knife, is going in just in the center. Don't cut them straight. You want to go down in the center and make a little circle and cut just that piece out, that green piece right there. That's called holding your berries, because you're just going to go in and you're holding them in the middle, okay? And that's called holding your berries. And I'm just doing that until I've cut all my berries. Now in my bowl, and I have already rinsed my berries off, and they were draining, okay? And in my bowl, I have about 6 cups of berries. And if you want a little extra berries, you can always add a little extra. And depending on the size of your berries, how small or how big, you can actually go all the way up to 8 cups of fresh strawberries, and that just depends on how big or how small your berries are. Now, once I've added the strawberries to the bowl that has the glaze, I'm going to gently go from the bottom, and I'm working my wrist with my spatula, and I'm just gently tossing the berries. You want to be very gentle, and you want to use something like a rubber spatula like I'm using, because if you use something that has a harder side to it, you will possibly bruise your berries or break them down, and you don't want to do that, okay? If you happen to run across any green leaves, I just pick those out and just keep moving. And so you just go from the bottom and I'm just using my wrist and gently tossing the berries and making sure they're covered in the glaze. Now my pre-baked pie crust is nice and cool. When you're adding your berries and your glaze to your pre-baked pie crust, you want to make sure that your pie crust is nice and cool. I'm going to go on and just empty it just like that. I'm going to put all of those berries, all the glaze right in there. And you see how the glaze is clinging to your berries? That's exactly what you want. You want that glaze to cling to your berries. And if you have like a nice little bit of glaze at the bottom, you could always toss in some more berries if you like. Now, once I have my berries in my pie pan, I like to flip all my berries to the red side to make sure that as much as possible, just for presentation actually, that all of the nice berries are nice and red side up, nice berry red side up. We're going to put our strawberry pie just like this. We don't need to cover it. We're going to put it in the refrigerator and let it chill for at least 4 hours. Now, while that's chilling, I'm going to go on and start on our homemade whipped cream. This is so simple. All we're going to use is you're going to use some heavy whipping cream, and my bowl, my mixing bowl, I had it in my deep freezer and I took it out, and you want your bowl to start off cold. The reason why you want your bowl to start off cold is it helps to chill and get your whipped cream going better. Okay, you don't want to start with a warm bowl or a bowl that's been sitting on your countertop. You want to start with a cold bowl. A chilled bowl in the freezer is better. And so that was 1.5 cups actually of heavy whipping cream. My measure is 1.5 cups. So that was 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. And then to that, we added 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now, I like to use powdered sugar when I'm making my whipped cream versus using granulated sugar because it mixes in better and it actually stabilizes your whipped cream. So that way at the bottom of your mixing bowl, you're not going to have any liquid left. You're not going to have any liquid left. And you see that? You see how all of that heavy cream mixed in well, and I formed nice peaks with the whipped cream, with that heavy whipping cream. What you want to do now is go on in, cover it with some plastic wrap, and we're going to refrigerate our heavy cream and let it become nice and chilled for about 30 minutes up to about an hour. We've taken our pie out, and when you look at it, it has been in the refrigerator. It's been chilling. The wonderful glaze has been firming up on the berries and in the pie. It is just glistening. It just looks so good. Oh my gosh. Well, you know what, guys? Let's go on and cut a piece of this strawberry pie and let's see how we did. Oh my, look at that. And I'm going to get some of those berries just to make sure that this piece, I'm serving this piece up for y'all. I'm getting your piece right. Oh my gosh. Look at the berries. Nice, plump, fresh berries. And with my berries, when I'm making my strawberry pie, I always use my berries that I bought that day or the next day. You don't want to have your berries 2, 3, 4 days old when you're making your pie. You want them as fresh as possible. And you see when I cut it, you see that there's no glaze oozing from that cut piece right there. That's because it's chilled nicely. The glaze was a good consistency to adhere to the berries like we needed it to. And also, it makes sure that our bottom pie crust does not become soggy. And that is important. So that's why the glaze is important, to make sure that that bottom pie crust does not become soggy and worn down from that strawberry glaze, okay? Now, in the description box below, I'm going to have a list of our ingredients that we use to make our fresh strawberry pie. And I'm also going to have the recipe for my single pie crust. And so the recipe for my single pie crust will be in the description box below. And at the end of the video, y'all, I'm going to have the video that I show how to do that blind baking, how to do a blind baking pie crust. Well, we have topped our strawberry pie with our fresh homemade whipped cream. Wow, it looks so good. Oh my goodness. Let's go on and take a bite. I'm going to give y'all that first bite. Let's go on and get a little whipped cream. Let's get some of those strawberries. Oh, look at that flaky pie crust. Go on and take your bite. It is so good, y'all. Well, that is it for me today. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, what are you waiting for? Go on and hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video and appreciate the content, don't forget to show it some love, give it a thumbs up, and go on and hit share and share this video with a friend or family. Well, that is it for me today, guys. And remember, it is always good when Devon is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.